Yo, boys, welcome to another trade recap. Today was a crazy trade, like 500 some shit on Apple. Low key, I'm not gonna hold y'all. I was getting fucked on this shit for a little bit. I was getting a little bit fucked in this shit. Today, I kind of calculated I wanted to get like 4 or 5 contracts in, based on my current risk with my account. It has nothing to do with anything that like would help you guys. It's just my own personal risk. So I knew I was probably only gonna take like 3 or 4, 4 or 5 or some shit. Um, and we had news at what was it, 10 a.m. or some shit. This is the news candle. Okay, this is the news candle right here. Don't look at these executions. The only one that actually was taken was this execution down here. This is on a lower time frame, so that's the algo. That's like charting out my preferred execution path. But I was looking to take longs like right around here, and I'll be honest, boys, I entered a contract like right in this range, and I don't know why the fuck I did that. I literally watched it in real time, reject, form a fair value gap against us. I'll kind of indicate real quick. The bias on the day was bearish because we were underneath this previous daily low. The 10 a.m. news candle, let's go to that 10 a.m. news candle. For me, that was 7 a.m. Yeah, so right here, right? So right around this 10 a.m. news mark, we created this high and we created this low. I watched this get swept. I actually took a short on MNQ. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I took a short on MNQ. I caught this move all the way. I think it was to this low right here, this data low. It was on a lower time frame. I caught this on the. Matter of fact, I can just go to it right now. 10 a.m. Where's that at? 10 a.m. Here's the 10 a.m. news. I got filled on a lower time frame, like a 2 minute or 1 minute, and then I just took out to the lows. It was a super simple move. Very simple shit. From a sweep on news, and that was it. That was it. Let me actually turn off the rise zones real quick. I was fucking around with that shit. But back to the trade I took today. Like I said, netted me $500 today. I was getting fucked for a little bit, but I had March 7th calls, so I wasn't getting absolutely annihilated. And honestly, I wouldn't even have minded holding that shit all day. I like the setup. I was longer term on it. But I'll show you the entry, the original entry, and then I'll show you my full size, that I got in. But let me actually, before I do that, let's go back to the 5 real quick. Like I said, the bias in the day was bearish. We dropped beneath this previous daily low right here. This is yesterday's low. We actually came down and we swept out. I believe it was, we swept out those London lows during the day. Nothing happened off it. We were still super bearish. So my bias is bearish. I was waiting for a reaction. We swept out these lows down here underneath this order block. I had entered a couple contracts right around here. I saw a lower time frame validation, and I watched that go against my bias. I literally watched it in real time right here. You can see we created this fair value gap in here. If you take a look right here, we created this fair value gap in real time. There's the threshold. My entry was on the break of structure, and it just got immediately fucked. So I stopped out of that almost immediately. My initial entry, the reason for entry, was fucked. I still maintained my overall bias, but I knew we needed more liquidity. Obviously, hopefully, preferably a sweep on London, or I guess it's really just the AM lows, a sweep on that. My target was the equilibrium, this structural EQ, which is drawn out from the low to the high, as you can see. That was my higher time frame target. But going back to the 5 minute, so like I said, I took a small loss on that, like a $30 loss, and I actually just kept the con for a little bit to like cut it. I think it was right around there. Yeah, right around there. I just ended up cutting it. It was like a $35 or $36 loss. I don't remember. Somewhere in there, under 40, I believe. I cut that, and essentially at this point, I was like, damn, that sucks. That's whatever. I can't really do anything about that. There's, live and you fucking learn. And then I went to the higher time frame, and I really liked how the 15 was looking once we got down here. I'll show you all in a second. I noticed that we were unable to fucking move. We were unable to get past that level. It was a crazy reaction. The 30 went crazy. The 15, it was insane. So I was looking for, let me go back a tick here. I was looking for longs on the 2 minute time frame. First it was the 1 minute. I do time frame alignment. So I started on the 1 minute. Once we started seeing some reactions on the 30, the 15, that's when I dropped down to the 1 minute, and I'm looking for that first fair value gap to form outside that order block sweep. Remember, every order block is a sweep and then a break of structure and inefficiency. So we had the sweep, then I wait for the break of structure. We have the break of structure, so then I'm waiting for the inefficiency to be retested. This is the first inefficiency. I get on the break of structure, and now I'm on the 2 minute at this point. Okay, I'm on the 2 minute time frame. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm just charting out to see if the 2 minute fair value gap is going to hold. And then if that holds, then I'll scale up to the 3, and there it is, right? So there is the hold. Now, target-wise, here's essentially what I'm looking at, right? I target first of all, I'm targeting the 10 a.m. high, or the 10 a.m. news candle. Whoops, we'll keep that actually. we have our 10 a.m. news candle. So this is my data high. You can call this a data high if you want. Pull this over to the right-hand side and make this yellow. Okay, so oh, you can't even fucking see that shit. My fault. Make that shit red. So I'm targeting this data high right here. That was the high of news that I was trying to, it's a source of liquidity. I was trying to exit my position on. An additional high, that was just this retested high around the data high, which is where I was originally trying to get filled. And I was actually a little bit late on the exit. Like I said, I was a little bit late on when I wanted to exit. I could have shorted it, honestly, but I had already taken a short on MNQ. My bias is bullish. I wanted to take this to EQ. I thought it was a better move. There wasn't a whole lot of inefficiency to retrace. Plus, the higher time frame didn't even make sense to take to a short. It looked way better to the upside, as you'll see that play out in a moment. But yeah, so my targets were this high. If we fail at this high, that's fine. Obviously, if we fail at the first fair value gap outside of this range, this is the first fair value gap at the top of this this system, right? Every system, every swing high, every swing low. The first fair value gap essentially on either side is going to be kind of your frame of reference. If we fail to clear that fair value gap, that's where I would trim as well. So a lot of areas to trim, and as well as if we create an order block in this range, because you can see we swept out those lows. Very careful to make sure that I wasn't going to get fucked on that. And then obviously max take profit on the previous daily low. This previous daily low acts as a source of liquidity from the prior day, obviously. And then you can see I have a structural equilibrium here, drawn out from the swing low, swing high, drawn out down here. Actually, it's a little inaccurate. There we go. I have another take profit there. So I had 5 contracts. I had already entered in on 1. That contract was cleared, so I had 4 contracts left. And essentially I was going to take 1 here, take 1 there, take 1 there, take 1 there. That was the goal. I did not listen to that plan at all because I didn't have enough time to do that. Switching back to that 15-minute time frame, you can see it started to develop like crazy. Like it was looking really, really, really solid. I wanted to see that 15-minute fair value gap hold as well on a lower time frame. As you can see, we're just chugging along. I did take profit in here because we have a trend equilibrium coming down. This is where that EQ range would be drawn in. I actually took EQ range off for the time being. I will be rolling out an update for it. I think there can be some improvements. I noticed that people were top ticking it and bottom ticking it really well, but it needs more variability. I think there's a little bit lacking from it. So I actually did take a contract somewhere in here. I'm not entirely sure when I got filled. I could actually pull up my fills, honestly. That might be beneficial. I'll do that next video. I'll pull up my fills so we can actually see the exact time I exited the position, but this is when I took one of my contracts off. I was actually really, really, really hesitant here. I'm not going to lie. I switched to the 1 minute time frame and I was just trying to see if we could clear that data high. That's where the news high was set. And we were kind of struggling there for a little bit. So I put my stop in, obviously to the first fair value gap, just kind of waiting to make sure we're not doing anything too crazy. I was getting nervous here, boys. Not going to hold y'all, but we were still holding down that 15 just fine. Still in that higher time frame. 5 minute looked great. Everything looked good to the upside. I was comfortable with holding this. The algorithm actually pulled the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 5, so we had entries on all of those time frames. That's usually a really good sign for me that this is going to hold well. Going back to the 2 minute. Usually if I enter on the 2 minute or if I enter on the 1 minute, I watch it on that time frame. And I'll scale to like, I'll go back to the 5 occasionally. But for the most part, I'm going to stay on the time frame that I entered on just because it's going to be more applicable for the entry. The 5 ended up breaking on this, but looking great, looking solid. There's our break of structure. Stop loss moved up to that next fair value gap right here. Just kind of maintaining this position down. Our next goal is if we fail at this fair value gap, this is another first fair value gap. First fair value gaps are really significant because if you fail in them, it's usually a sign that the structure is going to continue delivering in that previous direction. So if we failed, the trend was going to probably continue. We did not do that. We just kept going. We have data highs right here. I want to see a sweep on the data high without sweeping and breaking structure against us. You can see this is the data high right here. We swept that data high and then we broke structure after that. Super bullish. Stop loss moved up to previous take profit. And then obviously we trimmed on the data high clearance. And then I was honestly okay with walking on this this structural equilibrium. I'll be honest with you. The structural equilibrium looked really solid. I was already kind of like mad about that first little like $35, $36 loss. So I was kind of just comfy, just like walking at this point. I had made like my bag. I was ready to dip, which is a good practice to get into. But I was like, whatever. I'll just move my stop loss to the first fair value up outside of this order block range. As you can see, there's the data high. So the first fair value gap would be this guy right here, outside of that range. Pulling your stop loss in, targeting this source of liquidity right here. And you can see a full character change the second we tap into that level of liquidity. I mean, you can see it just starts chopping. Sure, the trend is continuing, but a lot less dynamic character to this overall system. It's less and less clear where it's going to go. And that's exactly why I targeted that high as a source of liquidity. So the entry was a break of structure on a 2-minute time frame using time frame alignment with the 5 to 15 in the 3-minute time frames. Watching that first fair value come in, you can see on all time frames the algorithm took a trade. Obviously, as you scale down to the time frames, you can see it got better and more precise entries. My entry was on the 2-minute. We had this break of structure, sweep of the London lows. Higher time frame, we weren't moving any more to the downside. We had a fair value gap there, and we just ended up retracing it. So pretty solid move. If you go back to the higher time frame, just to kind of see what I'm talking about there, we had this fair value gap in here that we were coming back in to retrace. I was targeting the equilibrium of this move, and we had not a lot of source of liquidity underneath of us. We really didn't have a whole lot. I think we had another volume imbalance, but really not a whole lot of something for me to want to short this even more. But yeah, we took out the lows, didn't really move anywhere substantially after that. This order block was pretty non-substantial, and then used the higher time frames in conjunction with our lower time frames, the 2 and the 3. Entry on the 2, break a structure, first for value gap, pulled my stop loss in, targeting that previous daily low. This would be a bearish order block. You can see the bearish order block is more defined on the 5-minute. There it is on the 5-minute time frame right there. You can see it looks a lot more clean on the 5-minute. But the idea here, bullish order block, bearish bias underneath our previous daily low right there, coming back up to previous daily low. So super simple bias, super simple trade. Could have got a better fill. I wish I was a little bit more patient. I think it was just because I had already made money on my trade from MNQ. I was kind of just like in that state where I'm like, okay. But I logged right after I closed it short. So I don't know what I was thinking. But it happens, and I still walked away like $550 richer. So it is what it is. There's still something to be learned in every single trade. Don't ever let that escape you, no matter how good you get. Always understand that you can improve. In this particular situation, I wish I preserved my capital. That would have been an extra contract I could have got at a lower fill. Instead, I was only able to get 4 instead of 5. So could have probably made 620, 630, something larger than 550 if I had just been a little bit more patient. But it is what it is. I'll take the win. Pretty good day. I'm up a lot this month already. Just between Top Step and my live accounts, this has been a pretty substantial month for me. So unfortunately, no live happened today. The office was taken, so I wasn't able to go live. But I did call this out. I did say Apple longs. If you check chat, you're welcome. But yeah, so we got a video dropping on the actual live execution of this shit because that shit was funny as hell. The actual live execution, this will probably drop tomorrow. Y'all can see what happened in real time. But all right, man. It's about it. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully you learned a little bit of some shit today. Take care.